You know, none of this shit is really real. None of this changes who you are. I don't wish jail on nobody. But you a criminal. A bad guy just like me, nigga.
Nigga, you made me this way, K. Come on, man.
So when people talk about great TV anti-heroes, they usually bring up characters like Tony Soprano from The Sopranos or Walter White from Breaking Bad, but then you have James St. Patrick, known as Ghost from Power, and he's often mentioned in those same conversations, but he doesn't quite hit the same. And the reason for that is not because Ghost is a completely different type of character, it's actually the opposite. Ghost feels like he was meant to be an anti-hero, but the writing never fully commits to what that actually means. So the question is, was Power confused about whether Ghost was supposed to be a good guy or an anti-hero? And the short answer is, not exactly confused, but definitely inconsistent. Ghost is without a doubt meant to be an anti-hero. He does countless horrible things throughout the series. He's a drug kingpin, he kills people, he manipulates everyone around him, he cheats, he lies, and he destroys lives when it benefits him. On paper, that should put him right next to Tony Soprano and Walter White. But the difference is in how the story frames him. And that right there is where everything falls apart. Because with Tony Soprano, the show never lets you forget who he is at his core. Even when you sympathize with him, even when you understand him, he's still impulsive, selfish, petty, and often pathetic. He kills people he cares about, he ruins lives over ego, and the show never tries to soften that reality. Walter White is even more deliberate. At first you root for him, he's a dying man trying to provide for his family. But over time, the show slowly strips away every justification, every excuse. He poisons a child, he lets Jane die, and by the end he admits the cold truth.
I did it for me. I liked it. I was good at it.
And that's what makes these characters work. The audience is forced to reevaluate them over time. Ghost never really fully gets that treatment. Instead, Ghost is constantly positioned as the most reasonable person in the room. When Tasha is being manipulative, Ghost looks grounded. When Tommy is reckless, Ghost looks controlled. When Kanan is chaotic, Ghost looks strategic. When other characters spiral, Ghost is often the calm center of the story. So even when he's doing these terrible things, the show keeps surrounding him with people who make him look like they're lesser evil. And that creates a weird effect. Instead of asking, how far is a Ghost willing to go, you end up asking, is Ghost actually a good person deep down? And that right there completely changes how the character is perceived, regardless of writer intentions. And this becomes even clearer when you look at specific story choices, because Ghost actually has multiple moments where the story could have pushed him into true anti-hero or even villain territory, and it just doesn't. Take Greg Knotts, for example. In the actual story, we're rooting for Ghost because we know he didn't kill Greg. We want Angela to prove his innocence, so we want him to beat the case, and when he finally walks free, it feels like true justice. But imagine a slightly different version of that same storyline. Ghost still goes to prison, he still faces the death penalty, Angela still works the case and finds something in the evidence that convinces her he didn't do it. She helps him get released, and everything plays out almost the exact same. But after he's free, Angela asks him, James, did you kill Greg? And Ghost gives it that familiar smile and says, of course I didn't, Angie. And then we cut to a flashback and we see it. Ghost actually did kill Greg. Now this changes everything, because at this point, Angela did not save an innocent man. She helped the murderer walk free. And the audience realizes that Ghost wasn't surviving the system. He was actively manipulating it the entire time, including us. That one change alone completely shifts how the audience would view his character. The same thing applies to Angela's death. In the actual show, it plays like tragedy. Ghost is freeing more like someone caught in the fallout. But imagine if it wasn't reactive. Imagine Ghost realizes Angela knows too much, she's getting closer and closer every day, and instead of Tommy acting alone, Ghost and Tommy make a decision together, Angela gotta go. Not out of emotion, not out of panic, but out of cold, hard necessity. We could even get a scene of the two ensuring that the murder can never tie back to Ghost. Now, Angela's death is not just tragedy, it's strategy. And that turns Ghost into something far colder than the show ever lets him become. And another example is Sean. In the story that played out for us, Kanan is the one who killed his own son. But just imagine if Ghost was the one who did it, whether it be because Sean was a liability, because he was about to snitch, or maybe for something just as petty as him sleeping with Tasha. That one change alone could completely reframe the character of James St. Patrick for the audience, because now it's not just about him surviving the game, it's about being willing to remove anyone, even people close to him, if he perceives them as a problem. Even smaller moments like Rola's death could have gone further in reshaping his character for the audience, because in the show that we saw, Ghost broke down emotionally after he killed Rola. But what if he didn't? What if the reaction was more controlled, There could have been some regret, sure, even maybe some guilt, but it just stops there. Wrong call, wrong intel, move on, that's it. That kind of emotional detachment would say more about who Ghost is more than any emotional scene ever could. And I'm of the opinion that Rola's death scene is one of Omari's best scenes in the entire show. So I know what I'm saying here. But by making Ghost taking out Rolla seem more emotionally detached, more cold, and more calculating, it would inform the audience of his true sociopathic nature more than the original show ever did. And then there's Ghost's overall motivation, because too often, Ghost frames his goal as becoming a better man or leaving the drug game behind, but that version of Ghost is way too clean to be an anti-hero. A more interesting version of Ghost wouldn't win out because he's becoming moral. He would win out because he understands the streets are a dead end. Being a drug kingpin isn't just dangerous morally, it's unstable. You either end up dead, in prison, or betrayed. So going legit is not redemption for him, it's strategy. Clubs, politics, businesses, washing the money, building something that can last longer than the streets ever could, that's not him becoming a better man. That's him building a safer empire and surviving long enough to enjoy his riches. And if the show really leaned into that version of Ghost, even his biggest admissions would hit differently. Imagine him finally saying, yeah, you damn right I killed Breeze and I set up Kanan. I wanted to be the biggest drug dealer in New York City and they were in my way. No justification, no moral framing, just ambition. That's the same kind of honesty Walter White gives when he says, I did it for me. And that's really the core difference. Because with Tony Soprano and Walter White, the audience is slowly forced to confront the truth about who those characters truly are. But with Ghost, the show keeps softening that truth. It keeps giving him outs, it keeps framing him as reasonable, it keeps surrounding him with characters who are often worse so he looks better by comparison. So Ghost doesn't really fall short because he isn't complex enough. He falls short because power never fully commits to letting him be judged the same way true anti-heroes are. So in the end, Ghost isn't a man the audience slowly realizes is a monster. At least not when you're examining the way they wrote his character. He's a man the show keeps asking the audience to understand. And that's why he never quite reaches the same level as Tony Soprano or Walter White.